Hello again, it's Paul. This is me, the Bard. This is the Beard. And this is the back bedroom. And this is the podcast. So I've been looking around thinking, what can I show you? I'll show you a little Captain Concorde. Captain Concorde was a poem I did many years ago, a superhero I made up because of a plastic nose. And my good friend Richard Baxter, who's a great potter, made me a little Captain Concorde. So you can see that. I've also got a photo of me from when I was about 16, something like that. What a good looking bloke that is, eh? Look at that. What's not to like about that tie and that hair? Also, I've been picking books off my shelf, and under the C section, the great John Cooper Clarke. Not necessarily a children's poet, although he is on the GCSE syllabus, but a great poet. And the first poem I ever learnt off by heart because I wanted to, not because the teacher told me I had to, was one of his called I Married a Monster from Outer Space. And the first two verses go like this. I fell in love with an alien being whose skin was jelly, whose teeth were green, she had the big bug eyes, death ray glare, feet like water wings, purple air. I was over the moon, asked her back to my place, then I married the monster from outer space. Our days were numbered, our nights were spent in a rent-free furnished oxygen tent, where a cyborg chef served up moonbeams, done super rapid on a laser beam. I needed nutrition to keep up the pace when I married the monster from outer space. And it goes on for another couple of verses. And I always talk to kids about borrowing ideas, magpieing ideas, and so I stole that tune for this poem called When the Wasp Flew Up My Brother's Shorts, the same tune for your ease and comfort. It's from this book here called Paul Cookson's Joke Shop, and it's called When the Wasp Flew Up My Brother's Shorts. A family fun-filled holiday, seaside football match of the day. On the beach, the score 9-9 when the match went into injury time. We soon forgot our day for sports when the wasp flew up my brother's shorts. We misread that situation, thought it was his celebration, scoring a goal and dancing about. The yell, the scream, the twist, the shout. We're all smiles as he cavorts when the wasp flew up my brother's shorts. The moves you made, we'll never forget. The bottom wiggle, the pirouette, the somersaults, the acrobatics, a million amateur dramatics, out of control and out of sorts when the wasp flew up my brother's shorts. When the wasp flew up my brother's shorts. His eyes balled wide and his face distorts, worried where that wasp is caught, scared of the stink his body contorts, but the wasp was the one that was most distraught. Up one leg, down the other, relief for the wasp, relief for my brother. Took them both a while to recover, panic attacks and flashback thoughts when the wasp flew up my brother's shorts. When I married the monster from outer space. So you can see you get ideas from anywhere. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read another poem that was inspired by something else. I did this book years ago with other poets, the great David Harmer, Brian Moses, and equally great Roger Stevens. The Truth About Teachers, and Macmillan for a while did them in this great big size, which was brilliant. And you can probably tell from the illustration it looked very much like the Beano. For good reason, because David Parkins, who's a wonderful, wonderful illustrator, did the cover. He probably did it just enough so it's not copyright like the Beano. And I've got some great drawings in here. One of my favourite drawings is of a teacher called Mrs. Eagle. And I love that picture there, Mrs. Eagle and Mrs. Eyes, Mrs. Eagle's eyes. Hypnotising, mesmerising, traumatising, most surprising, magnifying, terrifying, spying, prying, mystifying, scary eyes, ever watch weary eyes. So that's one of my favourite poems. But because I knew he was illustrating the book, I wanted to write some poems that were visual. I wrote this poem called An Infant's Eye View of the Teachers, because I've got this theory that infants probably recognise teachers from their shoes. I wanted that idea. And I'll be honest, I don't really like this poem, because the rhymes don't really work. Like Mr. Knox has comedy socks, while Miss McHoots has rockstar boots. Mrs. Hughes has sparkly shoes, see Mr. Randall's open-toed sandals. Look at Mrs. Bright's old wrinkled tights, while young Mr. Mortson always has short shorts on. The different stockings of young Miss Brocken are stripy pattern often shocking. Whatever the weather, Mr. Heat has the cheesiest, stinkiest, sweatiest feet. Now, it works okay, but what makes it work is the drawing. I love that picture. If you look at the picture, you can see a rat with a peg on its nose, which I love, all the fumes, and you even see there a gas mask on a fly. And that stuck with me. And I also like Mr. Randall's sandals. So because of that, I wrote the next poem, also in the style of Mr. Cooper Clarke. And it's called Mr. Randall's Sandals. So a poem came from a picture. And it goes like this, in the style of that certain Mr. Clarke. Mr. Randall's sandals, they're ancient and they're old, they're battered, torn and tattered and they're always open-toed. The weathered leather from whenever, they just look a shambles. Don't look now, don't look down at Mr. Randall's sandals. Mr. Randall's sandals, they're loved by CSI, 'cause you can tell just where he's been and what he's done and why. There's evidence for all to see, all mystery untangles. There's history, geology in Mr. Randall's sandals. Mr. Randall's sandals, there's glue and drawing pins, chewing gum, squished and squashed. Chewing gum and squished and squashed. I'm going to start that verse again. Mr. Randall's sandals, there's glue and drawing pins, chewing gum and squished and squashed up, blue tack moulded in, buckles jingle jangle as the ancient thread untangles, coffee stains and lunch remains on Mr. Randall's sandals. Mr. Randall's sandals, there's lumpy chunky toes, the toenails that he never cuts and the mould and where it grows, toadstools lurk in the dirt and the murk and the mushroom grow at angles. Blink your eyes as the gases rise from Mr. Randall's sandals. Mr. Randall's sandals, observe the yellow skin, but where do the sandals end and where do the feet begin? The skin, the leather, it's joined together like waxy melted candles. The leather's dried, the skin has died on Mr. Randall's sandals. Mr. Randall's sandals, his hairy hobbit feet, the gases that they're giving off like rancid cheesy meat. Fungus fumes foul every room as the stink takes hold and strangles. Hold your nose when you near the toes of Mr. Randall's, Mr. Randall's, Mr. Randall's sandals. And you'll notice I stumbled on a few words there. I'm not going to record it all again because that's what happens when you're performing. And you just carry on. That's my tip. If you are performing, carry on. The other tip is to rehearse it before you actually record it. But as I'm 6 minutes into the recording, I'm not going back. Okay, I'm going to leave you with one more poem. And this could be a little poem that you could use as a model for writing your own poems. It's called Full of Surprises. This poem is full of surprises. Each line holds something new. This poem is full of surprises, especially for you. It's full of tigers roaring, and it's full of loud guitars. It's full of comets soaring, and it's full of shooting stars. It's full of pirates fighting. It's full of winning goals. It's full of alien sightings, and it's full of rock and roll. It's full of rainbows beaming, it's full of eagles flying, it's full of dreamers dreaming, and it's full of teardrops drying. It's full of magic spells, and full of wizards' pointy hats, full of fairy elves, full of witches and black cats. It's full of dragons breathing fire, and full of dinosaurs. It's full of mountains reaching higher, and full of warm applause. It's full of everything you need, and full of more besides. It's full of food, the world to feed, and full of fairground rides. It's full of love and happiness, full of dreams come true. It's full of things that are the best, especially for you. It's jammed and crammed and packed and stacked with things both old and new. This poem is full of surprises, especially for you. So why not write your own poem full of surprises that you want? I said it's got the last poem. It's actually not, because he said reaching down. I've got this little booklet I've been writing in every day, Poems for Our Time. So this is a poem called Now is the Time, and it's a brand new one written this morning with tonight in mind, because at 8 o'clock tonight we're going to be applauding the healthcare workers in this current crisis. Brand new poem, first time ever read out. Now is not a time to be cynical, more a time to be more ecumenical. It isn't right, the centre or the left. It's trying to work out just what is the best. A crisis that is bringing us together. A virus that is changing us forever. But in this crisis, let us just recall those who did not value this at all. Those who thought that value was financial. Highest bidders, market and potential. Private money makers from elsewhere. Profit before people. Cash before healthcare. If and when eventually those of us get through, let us learn right now the value that is true. Cherish and protect at any cost. This jewel in our crown must not be lost. Safeguard doctors, nurses, safeguard health for future generations. That's true wealth. Written this morning. It may change. In a sense, I might edit it, but I like the shape and the feel of it, and I shall carry on performing it, and that's how it works. Anyway, with that in mind, I shall bid you good day and see you later on.